Hey Alan, Darren Kiripatla here, up in Winnipeg, Canada. Thought I'd give a little shout out and answer your call for some amazing stories. I don't know if my story is necessarily amazing, but I've got 4 or 5 things here. Sure, I'll keep them short. The first is I started this whole blogging thing and sharing my content online probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was 2005. And shortly after I started that, one night at a family dinner, I was helping my niece with her grade 7 math. She was really struggling with that, so we decided that I would tutor her regularly. I teach high school math. And make a long story short, since we couldn't meet regularly face-to-face, even though we live in the same city, I built a blog, and through the blog I was tutoring her. I blogged about that on my own professional blog, A Difference, and I had an audience of, 2 or 3 people who would come in and chat with Ellie and kind of help her, get better at her math. Anyways, Ellie's done great. This has been a wonderful experience for her. The 2 or 3 people that were commenting that, that helped, and that was great. So put that on the shelf. Some time goes by, it must be a year, maybe 2 years later, I get this email from a fellow in Denver. It's totally cold. I don't know this guy at all. And his name is Joe. And Joe emails me and says, well, we'd like you to come down and do a couple of days in service with teachers here in our school district in the summer. So I said, well, sure. One thing leads to another, and I'm down there in Denver. And in his introduction to the staff that I was going to be working with over those 2 days, what he talks about is not the stuff that I've been blogging about on my own blog, not the stuff that the kind of work that I've been doing with my own classes, and that's all open and public and everything. He talks about Ellie's blog. He talks about the blog that I used to tutor her in math, and that was kind of a total whack on the side of the head. I never expected that. Anyway, so I'm doing all this stuff with my students. This is story number 2, and I go to this conference here in Winnipeg. Alan Levine's in town. So I go to see him, and he starts talking, and he says, how many people have ever heard of a blog? I raise my hand. How many people have their own blog? And I raise my hand. Fewer hands go up with each question. And then finally says, how many of you blog with your students? And mine, at that time, was the only hand that went up in the room. And he kind of stops everything, and he walks right up to me and says, do I know you? And I laughed. I said, no, I don't think you know me, but I know you. Anyways, long story short, in the middle of his presentation a little later on, he stops everything and asks me to come up and address the teachers that were there. Now, I went to this thing to, sit and get. I was going to be just soak up the experience from Alan, and here I was doing presenting. Anyways, my vice principal was at this professional development session as well. Anyways, one thing leads to another. A couple months later, he had lunch with her, and he shared some inside information with her. I learned a couple months later when I got this email from Alan inviting me to come down to the Building Learning Communities Conference as a presenter. And that was just a great professional experience for me, and I learned a lot just as a presenter, and I'm going to be back there at the end of this month, July, for the 3rd year in a row. What else? K-12 online. Through all the connections that I've had and established through my blog, some friends and I got together and we built K-12 online, a free open teachers conference that with content archived for free forever. And you know all about that. I don't think I need to say too much. You were one of our keynotes and presented, I think, twice. Anyways, so that's another one. Twitter's another one of these social network things, which I learned about from you. And that led to me getting another one of these emails inviting me to a professional development session. This was last year, so in the spring. And I went down to St. Louis and did a professional development workshop down there. And I'm going back later this week for the 2nd year in a row. So that's another one. Yeah. So those are, I guess, my amazing stories, the kind of things that, these things never would have happened to me if I hadn't been sharing my stuff and just putting it out there for anybody to take, anybody to learn from, challenge me, push me on. But more than all of this, and this is what some of the other people have said, is the kind of personal connections that I've developed with people, friendships that I've made. Some of the closest friendships I've made never would have happened if we hadn't connected this way. And these are some people that I regard as my closest friends today, much like some of the other commenters have said. So I rambled for about 5 minutes, and that's too much. So hope this is something you can use. Cheers, take care, and good luck with the presentation.